Neale, it's such an honor to welcome you back to the Soul Collective. Thank you so much for being here.
It's wonderful to be with you, Emily. How can I serve you?
Well, one question around service that I wanted to ask you about. You are continually of service in the world, and I'm so curious to ask you what continues to inspire and motivate you.
I'm going to say something that's going to be a little unusual, Emily, and I hope that people understand it in the way that I want to send the message, but I'm not serving anybody but me. When I'm very clear that every service is a service to myself, that what I'm doing in order to enhance my own experience of who I understand myself to be, then the service that you are describing does not feel like something that's, but it feels like something that is providing me with a great experience of who I really am. So I I don't really feel in any way reluctant to serve myself in this way.
Hmm.
And if other people benefit from what I do that pleases me and gives me a great experience of my understanding of myself, if other people happen to benefit, by gosh, that's wonderful. I'm happy to hear that.
How do you feel you've embodied God's teachings over the years?
What was the first part of your question?
How you feel you've embodied God's
Oh,
teachings?
oh, yes. I don't feel that I've embodied them. Or, well, I'm not going to deny all of it, but I like to say when I give a speech anywhere, hi, my name is Neale and I'm not my book. I don't want you to think that I'm a living representation of my book. But have I found a new path? Have I found a pathway to the evolutionary process in which my soul is engaged? I think I have. And have I made a few steps along that pathway? Yeah, I've made a few steps. I've taken a few steps along the path, but I'm not really able to say that I'm embodying the messages of the book. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably at around a 3 or a 4, which is much better than I was before. I was at a 0. So I think I've made some progress. But how I try to embody the message is I ask myself a question in my mind each time a certain new situation or circumstance arises in my experience. And the question that I ask myself is, what does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? Wait a minute, wait a minute. There's something going on here. There's more going on here than meets the eye. What does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? And when I come to clarity on what this is all about with regard to my soul, then my body and my mind kind of like fall in line, so to speak. And I can feel that I'm up to, that I'm doing what I came here to do. See, I didn't come here to do anything for my body or my mind. I came here to do something for my soul.
What do you feel our purpose to be on this earth plane?
I think our purpose, not just on this earth plane, but for all sentient beings in the cosmos, all sentient beings in the entire universe, I think they have the same essential purpose. I think our purpose is to demonstrate and then to experience our true identity as individuations of divinity. So I think that that's why we're here. And I think that each moment of our life provides us with an opportunity, excuse me, provides us with an opportunity to do exactly that.
Mm.
And when we see the moment as what it really is, an opportunity to demonstrate divinity, it changes how we experience the moment and it changes how ourselves into the moment.
Mm,
At least it does for me.
it's beautiful. I know in one of your books, you talk about our relationship with extraterrestrials or higher evolved consciousness beings.
Yes,
And
highly evolved beings, yes.
yeah, I'd love if you could share your perspective.
Well, I was told in conversations with God that there are, of course, intelligent beings elsewhere in the universe. We're not the only planet out of the billions and billions of planets in the cosmos where intelligent life exists. In fact, it's questionable whether intelligent life exists on Earth. Based on how we're behaving with each other, we're not acting in a very intelligent way. But so I asked God, are we all alone in the cosmos? And she said, no, sweetheart, no, no. There are many, many, many civilizations of highly evolved beings. And there are some civilizations of entities that are not as evolved as human beings are. So it's kind of like a spectrum. And we're at the lower end of the spectrum, given our behaviors, but we're not at the lowest end of the spectrum. And we're certainly not at the highest end of the spectrum. But I was told that there are highly evolved beings elsewhere in the cosmos. And I was also told that those highly evolved beings have visited Earth more than once, but many times. They have come here to observe. They do so without allowing themselves to be identified, as who they are, because they don't want to throw the entire Earth civilization into an uproar. But they're observing our progress and doing what they can to assist in our progress without interfering with our process.
Mhm. That really resonates. You know, some describe this age of Aquarius that we're entering into as being a time when we may have more open contact with higher dimensional beings. Does that resonate at all for you?
Yes, absolutely. I think that we're moving into a period of time when we will have more contact. And I think before the next 50 or 60 or 70 years are out, it will be made clear. I won't be around. I'm too old. I will be, at least now, I won't be around in this particular body. I may come back in a different form, but this particular body will not be here when that happens. But I do think in the next 50 or 60 years, certainly in the next 100 years, very clear contact with highly evolved beings from other civilizations. I would be very surprised if that does not happen.
Do you feel there's any preparation that humanity must take in order to move into this next phase of evolution?
Yes, I think we have to ask and answer a very direct and simple question. I think we all have to ask ourselves, who am I? I think we should put that question on the mirror in our bathroom so that the first thing we see when we get up in the morning, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, get a felt tip pen and write the question in the right-hand corner of your mirror. Who am I? And then ask the following questions as well. Where am I? Why am I where I am? And finally, what do I intend to do about that? If we were to ask ourselves those four questions every day, we would be, to use your word, preparing ourselves for this next movement in our evolutionary process. Who am I? I mean, really, is this who I am? Am I this body or this mind? Or is it possible, just possible, that I'm something more than this body and this mind? I happen to think that I am. I think I'm a soul. I think I'm a spiritual entity with a body and a mind, but this is not who I am. I think these are just pieces of equipment that I'm using to achieve the agenda of my soul. Where am I? I think I'm in the realm of the physical. I think there are three realms in the kingdom of God. the realm of the physical, the realm of the spiritual, and the realm of pure being, which some people call heaven. And I think that I'm now in the realm of the physical. Why am I where I am? Because in the realm of the physical, there exists a contextual field that allows me to express and to experience my true identity. That is, that which I am not exists in the realm of the physical. So I can experience that which I am, because what I am not exists right alongside of me. Men and women are a perfect example. Clearly, I'm not a woman, but I can experience my masculinity when I am confronted or find myself in the presence of a woman, which I love to do, by the way. To
How
make
has
it
your
more, to make it more metaphysically, spiritually clear, um, let's pretend that I think that I'm the light. It's just a metaphor. But if I decide that I am the light, I wouldn't be able to experience myself as the light unless I was in a place where there was darkness. But in the land of the spiritual, in the realm of spirituality, there is no darkness. There's nothing that we would call darkness. There's only the light. So we come to the realm of the physical, where what we call the darkness exists, so that we can experience the light that we imagine ourselves to be. Therefore, don't condemn the darkness. I mean, raise not your fist to heaven and curse the darkness not, but be a light unto the darkness, that you might know who you really are, and that all those whose lives you touch might know who they really are. This is what every spiritual master has ever done. Spiritual masters do not condemn the darkness. They see the darkness as their opportunity to demonstrate their true identity. And in so doing, they often alter what is confronting them, and they certainly change themselves and become grander and grander expressions of divinity. That's been my observation, Emily, I could be wrong. I don't think so.
It's a beautiful observation. And, you know, there are those that might say the times that we're in right now feel to be very dark, that we have been in a period of perhaps heightened chaos and activity on the planet. And I'd love to hear your vision for us being the light, embodying the light, what the new earth in your heart and soul looks like.
Well, it looks different for everyone because the divinity expression is multifaceted. In other words, there are endless ways to demonstrate divinity: patience, understanding, clarity, forgiveness, kindness, generosity. The list goes on and on. So there's not one way that is embraced by every single soul in the cosmos. All of us have our own individual choices that we make. So, but my vision for the future is that each of us will see who we really are. We will actually all embrace the truth that we are individuations of God, individual expressions, if you please, of the divine. We will use each moment of our life to decide what that looks like for us. And it's different. It's going to be different for Emily, and different for Neale, and different for Jonathan, and different for Michael, and different for Sarah. All of us will have our individual, which is the beauty of it, by the way. The beauty of it is that the process allows us free will, the opportunity to decide now let's see, what aspect of divinity do I want to express in this particular moment, with this particular person, at this particular time.
Yes.
And if we ask ourselves that question throughout the moments of our life begins to change. That's been my experience.
Do you feel that your soul had a very clear directive coming into this incarnation of using certain gifts around communication, around writing. How clear do you feel that defined to be prior to entering into this earth realm?
I think it was totally clear. I think it was imminently clear. I think it was absolutely clear that I was being invited, not required because we have free will, but that I was being invited to use particular gifts and that I had particular agendas that I wanted to serve. The three aspects of divinity that I feel deeply that I came here to express and to experience were patience. Boy, do I have a lot of work to do on patience. Wisdom and clarity. So I think I have brought myself to a place of my own personal inner wisdom and clarity as an opportunity for me to express and experience what I came here to express and to experience. But that was just my agenda. Someone else's agenda might be totally different. Helpfulness, a person might have the agenda to be helpful. Perhaps that's why they got into nursing or got into being a doctor or got into being a lawyer. Or maybe that's why they do podcasts like you do, to be helpful to other people. So we all have our own particular agenda, but each of us makes those decisions. And by the way, what's interesting about those decisions is that we can make them more than once. In other words, it's not just a decision that we come in with into our lifetime. We can make a whole brand new decision when we're 25 or 35 or 45 or 55 or any time in our journey here on Earth. So that's the beauty and the wonder and the excitement of life, is that it provides us with a moment-to-moment opportunity to decide again who, that is, what aspect of divinity do we choose to demonstrate. But yes, when I came into this lifetime, sorry, excuse me, but when I came into this lifetime, I think I was given a very clear agenda, and I've kind of stuck to that agenda.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. And I feel what is so inspiring about your story, there are many things, but the challenges that you overcome and that you share, about so publicly, the time that you were on the street for a short, a year, I'm sure it felt like a very long period of time. Um, but with such humanity of really understanding that we all go through different challenges. And, if somebody is maybe in a period of life where it feels like it hasn't gone the way they had intended or hoped, or that they feel that there's so much more to their purpose and their soul's directive, what advice would you have to step into realizing that potential?
To realize that your life is not about you, that your life has nothing to do with you. See, whenever I got into those places where I began focusing on me, oh my, woe is me, things aren't going right, my relationship isn't going well, or my career isn't going well, or my health is not so good, or whatever I think is, not okay with me about my particular present experience. When I asked God about that, I said, I don't understand. How can I make life work? I have to have an answer because Emily is going to ask me 27 years from today what I could tell people who are facing moments in their life that are not what they would like them to be. What can I say to Emily? And God said, you really want me to answer a question 27 years before Emily asks you? I said, yeah, because there's no such thing as time. And I know that she's going to ask me the question. So God said, okay, tell Emily this. Neale, your life is not about you. Stop worrying about what is or is not the way you want it to be, because your life is not about you. Your life is about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. But when you live your life in that way, you discover an enormous universal truth. The largest truth is that in that sense, your life is about you because, Neale, There's only one of us in the room. There's nobody else here. One of us simply demonstrating and expressing the energy you call life in different ways. So when you and energy become one, then you and Emily become one, and you and Michael, and you and Thomas, and you and really everybody in the world. You become one with everyone. And you begin to see yourself as that. And then you begin to treat everyone as if they were simply an extension of you. You speak to them as you would like to be spoken to. You treat them as you would like to be treated. You do for them what you would like to have done for you, because they are you, simply showing up in a different form. Now, of course, I'm not the first person to say this. There was a guy walking around here about 2,000 years ago who said, do unto others as you would have it done unto you. So it's really very simple. There's nothing complicated about this.
When you speak and share, there is such an embodiment of unity consciousness, of service to others as opposed to service to self. And I feel, that true desire to help, to assist, to share is where we make great steps forward and changes. And
We've come full circle because when we understand that service to others is service to self, then we've unlocked a huge, huge mystery of life. There's no such thing as service to others in the literal sense of the word, because there are no others.
yeah.
So service to what we call others is service to what we call the self. That's why doctors feel fulfilled when they finish with an operation and save a person's life,
Mm-hmm.
because they did it to express who they are. And they did it by doing what they did for what we call another person, but in fact, they're simply self-expressing. So, I mean, and to put it another way, if nobody ever had any legal problems, if there wasn't ever a time in your entire life when anyone ever had a legal problem, lawyers would be out of business. So what lawyers hope for, believe it or not, is that people will have problems and call them and come to see them in their office so they can say, how can I help you? But if a lawyer were really honest, which lawyers are not, but if a lawyer, just kidding. But if a lawyer was really honest, he would say, how can I help me by providing something that you feel that would be useful to you?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no such thing as service to others.
Well, I feel like that, you highlighted a core problem, I feel, with many of our systems and structures, and that is that, a lot are predicated on the need for people to have problems, whether it's, food or medical or, the list goes on. And so I'm just curious to ask you what you see as some of the biggest challenges that we face as a species.
Well, I think we're identifying the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is we don't know who we really are. And the biggest challenge is to provide for ourselves what gives us an opportunity to know and to demonstrate our true identity. But because we don't know who we really are, the smaller challenges we face on the earth are very obvious. Number one, the biggest challenge that I see is that we've had armed conflict, Emily, on this planet for all but 5% of recorded history. There's always a war going on somewhere, and there are two going on right now as we're talking. So that's the biggest problem that our misunderstandings have created. There's also economic disparity. We can't seem to find a way to provide equal opportunity economically for all the people of the earth. That's another problem. Social inequality is a third problem. We think that a person's skin color should determine how we treat them. What a crazy idea. Nationality is a fourth problem. We want to put up walls on the borders of our countries so that other people can't get in because they're not one of us. Even though they're escaping a country where conditions are so horrible and so terrible that they can barely survive. So they've only come to our country to hopefully find at least a halfway decent life for themselves and for their children and for their grandchildren, trying to do the best for their family and for themselves. But no, they're the wrong nationality. And worse yet, Emily, believe it or not, even our religious systems are problematical. There are 4,223 religions on the earth right now. I didn't make that number up, by the way. You can Google it, just engine, how many religions are now being practiced, not from the beginning of time, but being practiced today on the earth. 4,223 religions on the earth today. And all of them claim to be the religion you should be following. So we can't even find a way to bring ourselves to God under the umbrella of one simple belief system, one simple religion, which is why I wrote a book called The God Solution. And the God solution is to redefine our understanding of the divine.
You share an experience where a woman came up to you after and said, "Thank you for introducing me to a God I could fall in love with." What does that God look and feel like?
Essence of pure, unconditional acceptance and love. It looks and feels like, honestly, like I felt when I was in my mommy's arms when I was about a year and a half old. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like being in the arms of your beloved. And it feels like being accepted, understood, and you know what? Not even forgiven. It doesn't even feel like I'm being forgiven
Mm.
because the God that I believe in does not need to forgive me for anything, any more than I have to forgive a 2-year-old child for what a 2-year-old child would do. If a 2-year-old child spills the milk at the table, I don't say to the 2-year-old child, "Oh, sweetheart, I forgive you." Forgiveness is not part of that process. In fact, not only would I not forgive the child, I would actually comfort the child
Mm,
in the moment of his dismay,
that's right.
which is what God does with us. God doesn't forgive us for anything. God simply comforts us and says, "De nada. It's not a problem. I love you so much you can spill the milk. I mean, there's no use crying over spilled milk. I love you so much you can do whatever you're doing, and you will never, ever separate yourself from me because such a thing is impossible, because you are simply an individual expression of who I am. And if you don't remember that or don't believe it, you might behave in a way that doesn't demonstrate it. But the day will come or experience when you will understand and demonstrate it completely.
What are your conversations with God looking like these days?
It looks like the conversation we're having right now, because I'm talking to God right here. But to answer your question more specifically, it looks like an exchange that I would have with my very best friend, where I could go to God with my sadnesses, my joys, my questions, the answers that I think might be true, my desires, my hopes, my dreams, my challenges, and my promises and
Mm,
my commitments. You know, I have to tell you something. I feel that way presently on earth, not only about God, but about the lady that I'm spending my life with. She is exactly what I'm describing. I
mm,
can go to her and have quiet conversations in the evening, just sitting on the couch, talking with each other. And I can tell her my hopes, my dreams, my challenges, my problems, my desires, all that is going on with me. And she receives all of it openly. And if there's something that I need to seek forgiveness for, she says, I don't have to forgive you.
mm.
We're way past that. Way, way past that.
So beautiful. And it's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you about, which is how your definition of love has changed and evolved throughout the years.
Now I think that love is about expressing the highest part of myself with or for another without needing, expecting, requiring, or demanding anything in return. If I can look at my wife and say to her, I love you, not because of what I get from you, but because of the joy that it brings me to give you whatever gift I might have to give you. That's pure love. So then love is no longer transactional. It's no longer, I'll give you this if you give me that. It's not like a trade deal, like nations have trade deals with other nations. So, so now my understanding and my experience of love is that it's not a transaction. It's not a deal we make with somebody else. If I can love my wife without needing or hoping for or getting anything in return, now I have experienced pure love the way God loves us. But the irony of that is, here's the real irony. When you love someone in that way, they never leave you. They never walk out of the room. They never stop loving you because people who love that way are one in a million. We still think that love is transactional, and I did most of my life. I'm not making myself different from anybody else. I lived that way for most of my adult life until I finally had my conversation with God. And then I met someone who actually had the same idea. Yeah, she's interesting because she said, you know, Neale, I never ever in a million years thought I would meet you. I read your book when I was like 13 years old, and it changed my life. And if someone had told me when I was 13 that I was going to be married to you, and lying down with you doing this, I never would have believed them. I never would have thought that I would experience love, intimate, personal, one person with another love, with the person whose book I was reading. So it's an interesting experience because why I brought that up is that because of the book, she learned about love, the same thing I learned. So when we did meet, we were like two peas in a pod. We were like real soul partners because we both brought the same understanding about love to the relationship, which is why we got married a week after we met. And we didn't wait 2 years or 2 months or have a long engagement. We were in the car 7 days after we met. We had a couple of luncheon dates, no big deal, nothing serious. But as we were going to the theater, we were going to go see a play because we both loved theater. And she looked at me in the front seat of the car. And she said, I think we should be married. And I looked at her and I said, you don't want to say that to me twice. She said, no, I'm serious. We think the same way. We have the same values. We have the same understandings. We have the same desires and the same wants. We even like the same food, for heaven's sake. We like the same music. We're very compatible. I think we should be married.
Mm.
And I reached across the front seat of the car, gave her my hand, and said, done. We flew off to Las Vegas 2 days later, got a marriage license in 1 hour, came back as husband and wife.
I love that story. So, so romantic. And I can feel the love that you two share. What advice would you have? I feel like that is such great advice to really think about what you can bring to a relationship rather than what you can get. Um, and also, I'm curious to ask you when there are those moments where things get challenging, when things maybe get, you know, tough. What do you feel is the the way forward and the tools necessary to navigate such times?
Well, it's the same question I asked about 25 minutes ago. When things get tough, and anybody who lives with somebody else 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're going to have some times when things are not, as compatible as you'd like them to be. But whenever, there's one of those moments, I ask myself life's magic question. Whoa, whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute. What does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? Emily, there's more going on here than meets the eye. I mean, in life on earth, there's more going on here than seems apparent. There's a larger agenda being served. And that larger agenda, what my soul seeks to experience in this lifetime. So the advice I give to people when they're having those challenging moments, place it into a context, perhaps a new context for many people. Wait a minute, what does this have to do? What does what's going on right now have to do with the agenda of my soul? There's something, some aspect of divinity I'm being invited to experience and to express right now. What would it be? Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I always do it, that I'm, 100%, I'm an angel in disguise, but it has changed my ability to hang in there and
Mhm.
be able to move through those difficult moments. And sometimes even to say to my darling, when we're having a difficult, challenging moment, sweetheart, I love you. And my will for you is your will for you. I have no need or desire for anything other than what you feel you need and desire right now, whatever that might be. And that's my answer to her in every one of those moments that might be challenging. If you could have anything that you want right now, what would it be? And she'll tell me, well, what I want is for you to, do the dishes. I'm making it up, but I mean, whatever it might be. And I'll do it. I say, fair enough, because I have no agenda other than your agenda, which is, by the way, what God says to us. I have no agenda other than your agenda.
What?
Nor do I have, excuse me, but one last thought, nor
Mm.
do I have any need for a particular outcome other than what it is you desire and what it is you need. That doesn't mean I don't have any desire for a particular outcome, but need and desire are not the same thing.
Mhm. Do you feel as though that's the key to manifesting our truest desires is to really let go of that attachment?
Yes, of course I do. Yes, when we're not attached, then we unleash creative forces and energies that we would not have access to if we are so desperately needing a particular outcome that
Yes.
we're really holding on to the energy, express and project into the universe.
It's interesting. I wanted to ask you about creativity. There's something that you posted recently, which you said God never intended for humans to simply be assembly line workers, putting together what God designed. God's intention from the beginning was to put you at the drafting board, coming up with your own design.
Yes. See, everyone talks to me, and I shouldn't say everyone, but many people talk to me about God's plan. And I have to say to them, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Who said God has a plan? You think that God has a plan for you and for me and for every one of the 8 billion people on the earth, to say nothing of the 85,000 billion entities in the universe? God's sitting there with a plan for every one of us? No, no, no. And nor does God need us to be like minions, slaves in a kingdom, where God says, just do as I say, and everything will be okay. But if you disobey me, you're going to be in deep trouble. I might even send you to everlasting damnation. That's not the God of ultimate reality. So God didn't send us down here to be like assembly line workers. Here's the plan, and you just put these pieces into place. You do what I'm telling you to do, and everything will go well with you. No, God says, no, 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 you don't understand. My desire, which is different from my plan, God says, my desire is for you to experience yourself as creators of your own reality. I want for you to experience what I experience. I want you to experience the divine encounter of life in which you can create what it is you choose to create, just as I do. That's my desire. And you're doing it. You're creating what you want to create right now. It's just that you're making choices that are horrible. So stop it.
And these few last questions as we come towards a close, I'd love to ask you what a typical day in the life of Neale Donald Walsch looks like.
Well, I get up somewhere around 5:30, sometimes later, 6:30, but usually between 5:30 and 7. And I open my computer and I move to a place where I can not disturb my sweetheart. Sometimes not awake at that hour of the morning. And then I'll go write. And I usually write from around 6 or 7:30 until 10 or 11, sometimes till noon. I'm writing on my, Facebook page, or I'm writing on my Ask Neale platform, or, or I'm in the middle of writing another book. I've written 40 of them. Uh, and then I'll have a little bit of lunch. I normally don't have much breakfast, maybe just a piece of toast, and that's about it. But then I have lunch around 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. And then I spend the afternoon just either reading or enjoying life in whatever way the day provides. So I work from like 7 o'clock in the morning until noon, and then I take the rest of the afternoon off. In the evening, my sweetheart and I will have dinner together, or we sometimes go out for dinner or share some time with her family. She's got a very lovely family. Her mom is still with us, and God bless her. And we just were with her last night. We had a lovely evening last night with her mother. And so we share, time together. Maybe my darling and I will watch a movie that we enjoy on television, or just do something that's enjoyable for both of us.
Mm.
And then we retire for the evening. And I won't describe what happens then.
So rich, vibrant, dynamic life, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? Pride cometh before the fall. But if I had to admit what I was most proud of, I guess I hate to harp on the same subject for the last 10 minutes, but I guess I'm most proud of the fact that I finally found a way to make relationships work. Because I didn't when I was a younger man in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and even my early 50s, I was not able to do it. I had more than one marriage. And so I had actually more than two marriages. And so I actually had more than three marriages. And so I was moving for, well, actually, I had more than four marriages. So I was moving toward, well, actually, I had more than five marriages. So as I moved through my life, I began to, well, actually, I had more than six marriages. My present wife, I'm saying because you asked me, is my seventh marriage, not my seventh girlfriend, not my seventh live-in partner, my seventh actually ring on the finger marriage. I, I'm not proud of this. I'm not proud of the fact that it took me so long, but I am proud. Finally, I got it. Finally, I understood that the problem wasn't across the room. I always thought it was across the room. So I just wasn't picking the right one, or the right one, or the right one, or the right one, or the right over and over and over again. And you know why? Because the problem was right over here. I was the problem. And when I stopped being the problem in my relationships, my relationship stopped being a problem for me. Wow. You know what? I never said that before. I should write that one down. When I stopped being a problem in my relationship, my problem, my relationship stopped being a problem for me.
Yes.
So that's what I'm proudest of is that I made it. I'm 80 years old and I'm not going to be here forever, but I'm proudest of the fact that I at least managed to become a halfway decent human being before I died.
So beautifully expressed, and such an important part of life
I'm
itself.
only sorry that it took me, 63 years to
Mm.
get there. My wife and I, became partners when I was 64 years old, 63. And I remember the age specifically because I used to sing to her the Beatles song, that Beatles song, Will You Love Me When I'm 64?
Hmm.
She said, I'll love you when you're 74. I'll love you when you're 84. So, I'm 80 years old and we'll see about that. But at least I managed to put the pieces together. I'm only sorry, honestly, and no joking around, in sincerity. I'm only sorry. And I apologize deeply for those other six ladies whose lives I did not make very happy. And three of them are not even here anymore. They've left the planet. But, you know, the other three are still with us, and I apologize to them all the time. I'm so sorry that I was such a pain in the neck. I'm sorry. Like I said to my mommy, I'm trying to be a good boy.
What invitation would you like to leave listeners with?
The invitation to look honestly, sincerely, authentically at why you think you're here, what you think you're up to, and really how you are doing with that. to really make a self-assessment, not for anybody else, not to try to impress anybody or worry anybody or even involve anybody, but just to sit down with yourself and take a look at those 4 questions that I asked earlier. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I where I am? And what do I intend to do about that? That would be the invitation I'd leave for people who are listening to us. Maybe it's time for a self-assessment. And if, that self-assessment brings you to a place where you think there's more you could do to be the person you'd really like to be, step into it. Don't postpone it. Don't wait for another day.
Are you hopeful for humanity?
Yes, I think we have an opportunity to change the direction in which we are moving, but it's going to take the involvement and the participation of more of us. We have to reach a level of what I call critical mass in order for us to get there. But yes, I think we have the opportunity to do that more so now than ever before, Emily, because now we have the ability to communicate new and fresh and remarkably powerful ideas more rapidly with more people than ever before. Even when I was your age, to do something like this, talking to somebody across the planet and talking to thousands of people at the same time would have been utterly impossible. So because of the advances we've made